I'm cold, okay? Hey guys, this is CSDX, but you can call me Sean, and while I can't really afford anything at the moment in terms of this sort of thing, I've been looking into seeing what physical games are available, even old ones, to save space on my Switch. And no, I don't want to pay $70 for Travis Strikes Again No More Heroes, because they don't even include the DLC codes from what I found. Now, I can talk about pricing with games another day, which, in fact, you all seem to really enjoy when it came to WWE 2K22, which I honestly thank you all dearly for watching that one. But given the point that I was saying in terms of trying to save space for my Switch, I felt it would be important to discuss physical games versus digital games. For the longest time with gaming, physical versions were the norm. If you wanted to play a game, you had to get up, get a cartridge or a disc, put it in, plug in the memory card depending on the console, turn on the console, plop back down, remind yourself the disc didn't count as exercise for the week, and then enjoy the game. These days, however, we have it a bit easier, I guess, as you can buy a game digitally, wait for it to download on your console for a period of time determined by both the game size and your download speed, and then play it, with the added bonus of not having to wait to play it, aside from the update that the game could need, but other than that, you're golden. At least until the game potentially gets delisted, or hell, the digital store itself shuts down. This is arguably the biggest issue with digital gaming. Licensing, as well as other potential reasons involving cost, can result in the game being delisted and or the servers for it shut down. And God help you if it's a multiplayer only game you can enjoy playing from time to time, such as live service games. With physical games, however, while the item can wear out over time, especially if you fail to take proper care of it, it still ends up being the better option as you can still play the game, even if it ended up being disabled from re-downloading. So, I'm going to list a few examples of games you can't really play anymore, as well as DLC that got delisted that if you missed out on it, you're f***ed. Unless you mod the console, but this isn't the point of the video for now. I think the best first example I can give is PT, aka Playable Teaser. Now, I'm not big on horror games, but I did still see footage of the game played by the likes of Game Grumps and Markiplier, and for those that don't know, it was a playable teaser demo for a then upcoming game called Silent Hills, which would be directed by Metal Gear creator Hideo Kojima, and would also have involvement from famed director Guillermo del Toro, famed horror mangaka Junji Ito of all people, and would star Norman Reedus, who was at the height of his popularity at the time thanks to The Walking Dead. Unfortunately, about a year later, things went south between Kojima and Konami, resulting in not only the dissolution of the original Kojima Productions and a downward spiral that Konami does seem to be trying to come back from, grain of salt, but also PT being delisted from the PlayStation Store, leading to people opting to become disgusting, filthy scalpers and charge at least $1,000 for the PS4 because it had PT installed on it. And then Konami allegedly made it so the game could not be re-downloaded or playable, resulting in it technically falling under the category of lost media. You can't even have it on your PS5. Though I imagine that should modding become successful for the PS5, it could happen? I do doubt it though. Another example in some aspects comes in the WWE video games, and to an extent TNA Impact the video game. Unless I'm mistaken, the TNA video game had DLC set up before even SmackDown vs. Raw 2009, albeit only on 360, and it was pretty bugged at release. As for the WWE games, they used to be published by the original THQ, only for them to declare bankruptcy and sell their assets, which also resulted in the delisting of a majority of their games, including and especially WWE games. Hell, I don't know if I still have the original screenshot I took before the PS Store website changed it up to focus more on PS5 and PS4 rather than PS3, PSP, and PS Vita, but I remember seeing a game listed there called WWE WrestleFest, which was originally an iOS title that was sort of a remake slash sequel slash whatever to the original WrestleFest arcade game. Because of the closure, the game never got released on consoles, but interestingly, the game was listed on the PlayStation Store afterwards as disc only, which is arguably one of the more interesting oversights in recent memory. Sadly, even the WWE games published by their current publisher, 2K, aren't safe from being delisted. For example, a while ago, and it was a bit of a long while ago to be honest, I had planned to eventually buy WWE 2K15 digitally on PS4 after having it on the 360 and kind of on PC, but it never went on sale, and thus I couldn't afford it at the time or its DLC. The DLC was also really confusing as you had a season pass, but it was just for a sort of story mode content called 2K Showcase, which built off the Attitude Era mode in WWE 13 and the 30 Years of WrestleMania mode in 2K14. There was other DLC available at an additional purchase, with Paige, currently known as Soraya in AEW, or is it Soraya, being exclusive to people who bought the season pass, which, by the way, was called the 2K Showcase Pass, if I'm not mistaken. The game was then ported to PC via Steam, but had no inclusion of Paige or even her moves, theme song, etc., which I guess could count Paige in WWE 2K15 as especially lost media, because I don't think even pirated versions of the game, regardless of which console port it is, have a file for Paige that can be installed on a modded console. I actually tried checking too. It sucks because technically speaking, I can't experience the game at its best and most complete, and I doubt anyone can just, let me use their account to use a DLC, especially with how Sony does that sort of thing, where it has to be the user's primary console in order for them to play another user's content. And yes, that does mean that we had zero right to praise Sony mocking Xbox for planning to do exactly that with the Xbox One. I mean, I did say it got the 360 version and it's got all the DLC, but I think we all agree that those versions were mediocre compared to the PS4 Xbox One version. Didn't even have My Career, or a proper setup for catch finisher, double finisher, etc. Now there is another argument to be had involving this debate, and it comes down to game size. Games have managed to grow massive in size to the point that it's absolutely astonishing and stupid that Call of Duty Warzone, for example, is so big in size that it won't fit on the internal storage of a base model PS4 or Xbox One. That alone is so fucking ridiculous. The belief is that as a result of this, they can't fit on discs anymore, and the discs have to now be used for installing the game, but still requiring the disc to play it. It's because of this that I've usually had a belief that it'd be better to just buy digital cause you'd be using up space either way, even though PS3 and 360 discs had the game fit onto them just fine. Granted, the 360 discs were multiple discs at certain points, but eh. And this includes God of War 3, which was one of the biggest PS3 games at the time. Leave it to Price Gouge Jones over here to save the day. Yeah, Nintendo seemed to have this sort of thing figured out even in the Wii U days, as you would put in a disc, wait for an update, and you're good to go. When seeing this happen with my Wii U in 2016 or so, I was stunned and elated. Then the Switch happened, and not only do most of Nintendo's games, while unfairly priced still these days, end up being surprisingly much smaller than games on other consoles, but they all fit on their Switch cartridges. Breath of the Wild, a game that's roughly 14 gigabytes in size, can fit on this tiny thing. In fact, they have carts that can be produced containing as much as 64 gigabytes of storage. Sure would be nice if companies would fucking use them though! Yeah, in addition to removing instruction manuals in order to cut costs, fuck you for that, they were opting to not pay for carts of that size and just use smaller ones and then literally release the rest of the game via an update file. No, this isn't a case where a game like Mario Tennis Aces had content added to it over time, with it being perceived as unfinished but not actually unfinished. They literally put a portion of the game on the cart and the rest for an update data. For example, Spyro Reignited Trilogy on Switch only had the first game on the cart, and the other two were added as an update file from what I looked up, even though the Crash Insane Trilogy had no issues with this. Then there's 2K, hello again you bastard. When they released Borderlands on the Switch, it was a collection of the 3 games, specifically Borderlands 1, Borderlands 2, and the pre-sequel, but only Borderlands 1 was on a cart and the Handsome Collection was a code you could enter to download them. That in itself is fucking shitty. But then there's the other popular series of 2Ks that people love in BioShock. So the game is solely on one cart, but with all the games on the cart. Great, right? Not exactly. So it turns out, as stated before, only parts of the game were part on the cart all at once, with the rest of the games added via DLC, or rather update data I should say. In fact, BioShock Infinite, the biggest game in the series in data size and arguably everywhere else, was especially affected by it. You want to know how badly it was affected? Well, take a wild guess as to how much of that game is on the cart. I'll wait. Actually, no, I fucking won't. It's 3 freaking gigabytes! Only 3! I am not kidding. I wish I was kidding, though. The amount of the game on the cart for BioShock Infinite is a mere 3.6 gigabytes, and the update file for it is 17! In fact, it's been confirmed by other users that in order to play more of the games and not just have them essentially be demos you paid money for, you need to download update data for all 3 games at a total of at least 30 gigabytes. That is fucking absurd! In fact, there's another issue I have with game sizes. See, it is clear that they can run these things on the Switch, when they put in the actual time and effort. You Square. Especially when it comes to the Switch being one of the best-selling consoles of all time in a mere 6 years almost, let alone 4 or 5. Ironically, they even compressed the game's sizes as best as possible to make sure it'll fit on the Switch, let alone in terms of the internal storage and or microSD card. So why in God's unholy quest for anal sex do they not bother compressing the games on the other consoles? I'm sure it'll still run fine. Maybe even better on there. Seriously, there's an option to shrink games on the Xbox, and there's never a single game shown to have that option in my experience. In fact, why don't they just do what they did with their consoles before the 8th generation and just make discs that can hold all that data? That would be so much more practical, even if it ended up being costly. I don't care, you guys are multi-million-dollar companies. Do the right thing, damn it! Honestly, I'm not claiming this as fact, so do not take this as such, as I don't feel I could provide the right evidence for it, but I genuinely believe that they inflate these games to such a massive size and make it so discs just install the game and not actually contain the games to push sales for bigger hard drives and solid-state drives, external and internal. Hell, Sony and Microsoft have external HDs and SSDs specifically branded after them for sale, including at my part-time job, so it would not be a surprise if this were the case. Oh, and don't even get me started on physical games that are literally just game cases with a digital code. Why? Why do this? There was a claim that instruction manuals were cut from physical games in order to help the environment, but not only did they remove even the idea of digital manuals from games that you can access through said game in some way, Nintendo themselves included, as well as WB2K, for merely providing a link you can visit or a QR code instead of actually showing one when you choose the gameplay manual in the game. But you literally are selling plastic cases with nothing inside them. How much more wasteful can you f***ing get? Okay, this was not meant to turn into such a massive rant about the woes of digital gaming, but there aren't really that many positives about it outside of just having easier access to it, despite the fact that it's really not hard to just get up and grab the game, put it in the console to play it, and get back down to, well, play it. If nothing else though, I truly hope that this helps everyone watching this understand and know how important physical media can and truly always will be. Especially in terms of gaming preservation. Especially since now, even music streaming platforms are delisting songs due to licensing issues, such as the theme song of pro wrestler LA Knight in Rollin' Deep, which was delisted and then relisted with a completely different name, but only about 6 or so seconds removed from the beginning of the song. That is one of the dumbest. I don't even have a term for it. It's just one of the dumbest. Huh. Turns out I found out a benefit to digital gaming versus streaming, and I didn't even have to bring up Stadia for it. Wait, did I? I can't remember. Even if it gets delisted from purchase, you still get to keep it. Though there's still the issue of re-downloading it, especially when it comes to stuff like the Wii Shop channel closing, as well as the 3DS and Wii U eShop shutting down in March of 2023. How does Nintendo get things so right and yet so wrong at the same time?